want to beg your indulgence for a moment. And I want you to imagine that you're in the Himalayas, okay? And you've been cycling for days, you've been camping by the side of the road, and eventually you get to a temple at the end of the Kangra Valley, the Lucky Walla temple, and there's a wedding going on, and you're invited in, and then you sit with the village elders, and your guide says to you, "Is there anything you want to ask the holy man?" And I said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. Why are we here? What's it all about?" And the holy man said, "Each and every one of you has been especially chosen to come here on earth to do something special." So I said, "Well, how will you know?" And the holy man said, "You'll know in your heart." So we cycled off down the valley and thought, well, that was very interesting. And then as we were leaving India, actually on the runway, about to take off from Delhi, I said to the chap I was with, "Chris, there's a book in this." And he, "No, there isn't." I said, "There is." He said, "No, there isn't." He said, "Oh, there is." He said, "If you think there's a book in this, you write it." So anyway, we've written a book, and it's a book, and it's a book that this is us in India. It's a book based on what mainly a group of very successful marketers told us about what you have to do to be astonishing. And they actually told us you have to get 5 things right. And these were people like Sir Paul Judge, founder of the Judge Institute at Oxford University, Laura Young, ex-partner of Pricewaterhouse, etc., etc. And they said you have to have your health because you'll never be successful without it. You need energy, you have to be authentic, you have to pick yourself up when you fall over, and you have to learn from others, and you have to work with others, and that spells team. So all that together spells heart, okay? So what the holy man meant was, if you want to get things right, you as an individual need to work out your personal approach, yeah? How are you going to do things? And you're now thinking, where on earth is that man going with this? Well, I want to talk about 4 things today. One is what I've already told you what marketers have told me you have to do to be successful, and I think there is a personal attribute of being successful. I'm going to talk very briefly, the top right-hand slide, about the changes I've seen, the disruption I've seen in my career. And then I'm going to talk about the disruption that's happening right now in industry on the back of IT, and some of the things we're seeing as a company. And finally, I'm going to share some work that I did with a bunch of CMOs using one of our facilities at Fujitsu to predict what the role of the CMO will be, taking into account all these things. So that's what's in store for you. So, many years ago, I went to Warwick University. Now, at the time I went to Warwick, it was a good white brick university. You needed a B and 2 Cs to read management sciences. You need 3 As now. And I was in fact, there was only one course I enjoyed, which was marketing. And at the time, it was Kotler and it was McCarthy. McCarthy's 4 Ps and Kotler talking about the marketing concept. And it seemed really neat stuff to me. And at my time at university, well, pre-university, we used slide rules. We then used computational adding machines. I remember getting my first calculator when I was in my 6th form. I remember using punch cards to learn BASIC in the first year. We did batch programming in the 2nd year. In the 3rd years, we used a thing called microbrains. We had 2 5¼ floppy disks, one for the program, one for the data. I then went on to work for a telecoms company, and I learned all about mail, not email. We sent memos. Email hadn't been invented. I ran a project to source the first cordless telephone that the company manufactured, and we used telex. Who remembers telex? Probably nobody. It was to actually contact companies around the world. We had, dedicated telex operators, tape that went to the machine that sent the data over a phone line and it was transcribed at the other end. And then I've gone on to see, I've worked for P&P, who've been a reseller of PCs. I've been to the launch of DOS 5, major triumph at the time. I've seen Windows take off. I've seen mobile phones take over. I've seen the power of the mobile phone overtake the power of the computational power on the first Apollo spacecraft to go to the moon, etc., etc., etc. I mean, I'm now working on taking the concept of quantum computing to our customers. I'm working on AI, IoT. The world is changing. The world has changed massively. Now, at Fujitsu, we've been looking at that, and we think you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, the World Bank says that 30% of businesses are going to be disrupted between now and 2025. That's 7 years away. And that the amount of change you see in the next 7 years is going to be more than the amount of change I just described in my career. Now imagine that. I mean, are you imagining that? Because you probably should be. I mean, we're all familiar with Uber. We're all familiar with Airbnb. How old's Airbnb? Who knows? 9 years. 10 billion it's worth. Largest hotel chain in the world. So there's such change ahead that we're going to have to work out how we navigate through it. Now, we're constantly talking to companies about this at Fujitsu. We talk to CEOs in particular on a regular basis. And mostly they've all got the same challenges. These are basic marketing challenges. You need to win more business from existing customers, and they need to introduce new products and services and win business from existing customers and new customers, generate business. Now, they're also shit scared because they see people coming and eating their lunch. They're disruptors. And they're all working to try and figure out ways to change their business model, to change the way they operate, to change the way that they behave in their companies to actually respond to all of this change. And they're looking for organisations that can help them through that journey. And they're telling us that they want strategic engagement and they want help about doing things differently that move them forward. Now, what I've seen in my career today is what I call corporate speed. What you've seen with Airbnb and Uber, etc., I think is now customer speed. And the challenge for all of us, the challenge for all companies is actually to start moving at that new speed, at that lightning speed. And it's going to require each and every one of us to have a new set of skills to actually understand how that market works and what's required. Now, we've actually been out recently and surveyed 1,500 CXOs, and many of them were marketers. Now, a couple of interesting things came out. We'll skip these. A couple of interesting things came out. Number one, they think marketing should actually play a leading role in driving this change. Number two is they expect the modern marketer to be an influential strategist. And they expect each and every one of us to have a new best friend. And that new best friend is the CIO. Because they expect us to be understanding how technology is being implemented to change the business and then play a role in maximising it. Now, in this study, we found there were 6 elements that organisations are particularly focusing on to get digital transformation right. Now, there's the leadership, there's the people skills, there's doing things faster, working across the business, the whole ecosystem of technology, and understanding the value from data. And I'll talk about data in a moment. But you can see from this that many organisations have just started the journey. A few profess to be there, though, to be quite honest, I have my doubts. So, what's at the heart of all this? Well, my view is, I think it's data. Data's going to give us the insights. Data's causing the transformation in our customers. And data's the area where we can drive value. My view is that in the marketing function, we're going to see a whole new set of skills developing. We'll all have data scientists, we'll all have data analysts, and we'll increasingly run everything based on real data. Right, so that's the disruption bit. So let me tell you a little bit about Fujitsu now and the kind of things we do. So across Europe, we turn over 6 billion. We employ about 20,000 people, and we work primarily with large companies to help them operate their IT systems in driving their businesses forward. And here's an example of a customer we've got, the post office. And the way in which we're working with the post office is to help them get ready for digital transformation. And as you all know, they're having to respond to Amazon, the massive disruption that's happened in their industry in a relatively short space of time. And what we're doing is sitting down and working with them to change their systems and the way they operate so that they can be effective in this new market, so that their customers can link to the post office computer systems and actually deliver things and portray the same image as Amazon does in the market. We're actually working with the operations teams to change the way post offices work. So at the moment, we've all been there and we've all been stuck in queues. Well, actually, the premium customers in the post office these days are people sending packages. So we're developing new systems to link the post office counters with the most profitable customers and make the experience really rich for them. And so it goes on. So we're having to understand what the customer's trying to do and work with the customer on delivering new services into the market. And actually what our customers are telling us is that now that they want to talk about 4 things. They want to talk to us about the quality of relationship we have. They want to talk to us about the services we offer, how well we do it, but increasingly they want to talk to us about strategic engagement. And what they want to talk to us about is how well we understand what they're doing as a business, their business strategy, and how we can support that business strategy through what we can do. And they also expect us now to do that in an agile way. Now, how do we know that? Well, at Fujitsu, what we do now is we start every management meeting with voice of the customer. And actually, we have a strategic engagement program where we interview all our large customers using an independent research agency. And we then summarise the insight as a report. We share it with the account team. We feed back to the customer what we're going to do with it, and we discuss it and review it at the management meeting. And we start every meeting with what's happening there. So that's one thing we've done to respond to this changing market. Second thing that we've done in a really big way is we've implemented account-based marketing. Now, everybody here familiar with account-based marketing? Okay, so we're treating our largest customers as markets of one. And the marketing team, increasingly, is sitting down with the account teams and helping a strategic plan being put in place for the customer, ensuring we get the reach across the customer, and they were getting a consistency in messaging from all our people touching these accounts that gets in the mind of the customer exactly what we're trying to portray. Really, really important for us. And the sorts of things we've done over the last year or so involve setting up an innovation centre in a customer, because that's what they're looking for from a partner, right through to supporting bids, where we've actually created Japanese bento boxes with a summary of the bid that have been delivered to the customer with a URL on the box directing them to a website that's specifically conveying the messages we want to on the back of what we understand about the customer. So another really important new behaviour that's coming out from this. And then the final thing I just want to talk to you about that we've done is we've been putting in place digital transformation centres. Now, one of the things that I've seen starting to work really successfully, which started in California at the time of Apple, first mouse was developed by this company, Visio, was design thinking. And design thinking is a concept where you use, rather than use PowerPoint or boring meetings, you actually get everyone together in a room that has an interest in a solution or a problem, and you brainstorm the outcome. And we've been doing some really, really neat stuff to actually stimulate those discussions and then electronically capture the outcomes. Now, I'm just going to play you a short video just to give you a feel for what we're doing, and hopefully you'll get a good idea of what I mean.
Why?
So, a few aspects of that just worth pointing out. You saw the digital screens. We have a whole set of provocations behind that. So effectively pre-prepared post-it notes for all the industries we operate in to help people get an idea of or come up with new ideas on what might be utilised. Now, those of you that have watched Fujitsu might see us as perhaps being a traditional company. You go into our DTC, it's completely unlike anything you've been into in an office. You know, you're not allowed to use PowerPoint. There's a bookcase at one end with lots of toys on, there's boards, post-it notes, there's glue, there's crayons, and we spend the whole time getting people out of their comfort zone and talking about the business challenge in a completely different way. So DTC is another way of doing things. Now, this is the crux of what I wanted to share. So, on the back of our DTC, we invited a group of CMOs along fairly recently to talk about the future of marketing, the role of the marketer. And we shared with them some of our thoughts on the digital disruption, and we had them spend an evening actually co-creating. So we call this process co-creation. We call the methodology we've got HUX, which is our own digital version of design thinking. And we asked them to think about, so what's going to be happening to marketing directors, particularly in the IT industry, but I think everywhere, over the next few years. And as a group, our conclusion was, three areas to think about. Number one is this disruption that I talked about is going to continue. So if anything, it's going to accelerate. So we're all going to have to really, really respond to that and think about that. I mean, one of the concepts I grew up with is lifelong learning. I think we're going to have to move to day-long learning. That's how fast it's going to be. So we also talked about a new mission for marketing, and this is for everyone to reflect upon. What role can marketing play in this digital world? And what's coming out is that there's a real requirement for a facilitator to sit in the centre of the company to bring it together. So we in our scenarios, we saw sales and marketing coming much closer together. The difference between the two teams being quite different. And we saw, data collaboration, data collation, big data lakes, data analysts, data scientists actually being a key part of the marketing function and driving the change. One of the pieces of work we shared was some forward-looking work that Fujitsu's done. And fact is that most of the services that are delivered in 7 years haven't been invented yet. And which better team to actually address that than those here? The other piece of good news that came out of the discussion was there's been some research on how quickly roles will be removed in business. And using AI and other techniques, that solicitors will be removed. That accountants will be removed. But I've got some great news. The last role that they believe will be automated is marketing. So, good pick, guys. Okay, and then the final piece of our work was around this whole collaboration piece. And what's it going to require if we're all going to be that person? What's it going to require to make that happen? And you can see the Superman or Superwoman logo on the Superperson logo at the bottom of the screen. And we think that the marketer of tomorrow is going to be a T-shaped individual. So this is somebody who understands the whole business, all facets of the business, but has one very deep area of knowledge. It might be communications, it might be brand, it might be some other discipline within marketing. But the ability to have the conversation with all parts of the business and have that provide that facilitation in an age of massive change seemed to us absolutely key, a key driver, a key fundamental. So just to go back to those heady days at university and to reflect on what I saw then. Well, you know what? I actually believe the marketing concept still holds, but the challenge for everybody here is going to be, how do you do it faster? Okay, and how are you going to do it faster? Well, I think you've got to get 4 things right. You've got to be clear what you stand for. You're going to have your own marketing concept. You're going to have to really understand digital transformation and form a relationship with the CIO as part of that and work across the business. And you're going to have to be supermen and superwomen.